So, let's talk about Fast and the Furious. This is a franchise I've enjoyed hating on for quite some time now. I mean, it's big, it's loud, it's stupid. All it is fast cars, pretty women, and family. Maybe, I guess that's something important in there. To me, there didn't seem to be anything of substance to these movies. I hadn't seen them. Just from the trailers, they looked really stupid. And so I've avoided watching them and enjoyed criticizing them. But yeah, I found all of them at the thrift store recently. Someone had gotten rid of their entire Fast and the Furious collection, and I picked it up and decided, since there is a 9th one coming out at some point, that I would give these things a watch. And the idea behind watching Fast and the Furious was to hate on it even more. I thought that I would just be able to tear these stupid films apart, but if you've read the title of this video, you know I didn't know what I was talking about. The trailers might make them look dumb, but there is something there. And it's honestly, one of the wildest rides I've had watching a single franchise. And I watched all these films within maybe a 2-week span, if that. Why don't we dive into this wild roller coaster of a ride? The first film, I popped it in, and to be honest with you, I thought the first film was probably going to be really pretty good. The first film, I was expecting to have a lot of heart and probably be what all these films play off of when they try to draw, pull on your heartstrings. They're going to pull back to this first film. I assume this first film was going to be very family-focused and have a lot of heart, and it did. It did. The first film was very enjoyable, and I was honestly expecting it to be pretty good. The only real problem I have with the first film is the ending just doesn't quite hit for me. There seems to be something lacking at the end, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but it doesn't have a satisfying ending to me. But overall, just a really solid film. It's nothing super special, but it's good, it's decent. So then I went in and grabbed the second film, went to go put that in, and I looked at the cover, and I went, oh, what in the world? They didn't bring Dom back, or they didn't bring the Toretto family back. They decided to carry on the series with Brian, which seemed like the oddest character, but then I realized, at this point, they didn't realize they were going to turn this into a 9 film franchise here. It makes sense to go with Brian and not the Toretto family. I was a little skeptical starting off watching this, and it's a fine follow-up. There's again, nothing special about this. This reminded me a lot of, say, like Mission Impossible 2. It's fine. It's a fine follow-up, fine sequel, but again, there's nothing special or really all that interesting or unique about it. There's some fun moments, but overall, a fairly forgettable film. At this point, I'm wondering how this thing got turned into a franchise at all. So then I put in Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. What the what? Now, I knew Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift was kind of almost like the black sheep of the franchise. Like, it's the one that really doesn't have anything to do with anything until Dom comes in at the very end. I knew that was going to happen, but it was still just head-scratching why they did this in this way, and it's a really boring movie. It honestly, they just copycat the Karate Kid, but with cars instead of karate. They should have called it the Fast and the Furious Car Kid or something. Doesn't even, at least the previous 2 films had good characters, like enjoyable characters. This doesn't even have that. The only remotely enjoyable character in Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift is Han, and spoiler alert, they kill him. And so there really wasn't much to it, although when Dom showed back up, I did kind of almost get a bit of a nostalgic feel, which seems odd because I had only watched the first film a day ago by this time. But it was really, really cool to see Dom pull up, and you see him, and you hear the Latino music, and it's all like, all right. We're getting back into the actual main storyline, finally, I guess. So I went and I put on Fast and the Furious. This is the film I've heard the least talk about. I know that 5 is considered when everything gets good. I knew that it kind of went really weird with Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. I never heard much talk about the 4th Fast and the Furious film. And why is it called Fast and the Furious? We already had The Fast and the Furious. Why just Fast and Furious? It's confusing, and it's not as if you were trying to restart the franchise here at this point, because you still need all the character development from the first 2 films at least, and really even that third, even Tokyo Drift, the parts with Han are... You need that to understand this film, but also preceding films. I don't understand the title behind this, but the film itself was probably the biggest whiplash that I could imagine watching the Fast and Furious films. It is a dark, just dramatic piece, especially in comparison to everything else we've had up to this point. It was wild, and I was not expecting it. They did good, but again, there's nothing particularly special about this film. It's just too dark and dramatic. It's a much more of a character-driven piece, which I appreciate. I think that's where these films shine, but it felt not quite there. Still, it was solid, I guess, but again, at this point, I'm scratching my head wondering, how did they even get these 4 films made, much less a follow-up to this 4th one? And then I put on 5, and again, this, I'm expecting, okay, this is when it quote-unquote gets good. So, from 5 onward, I figured either, if I like 5, I'm going to like the rest of these films. If I don't like 5, the rest of these films, they're not going to be any good. They're going to be just like 5. So I put on 5, and it starts out really, really good. There are certain character beats. It was really cool to see some of these old characters be brought back. I enjoyed where they were taking the story. Being set in Rio was a really cool location, I thought, for this, and I was really enjoying it. And then it just kept going on and on and on and on. And honestly, it went on for, I'd say, at least 20 to 30 minutes too long for that movie. And it was exactly what I thought these films are going to be. It's long, it's boring, it's just a bunch of fast cars and quippy characters, and just not much in the way of a good story being told. Fun action, sure, I guess. And like I said, it started off really, really well. I thought they set up some really cool stuff, but there was just not enough cool payoff to any of it. And what's with The Rock in this film? Dwayne Johnson, what were they thinking when they designed this character? He's just weird. He comes in with this weird accent that he has and like a super long goatee. They completely changed him by the 6th film, which I think was necessary. Also, he chooses this... The girl that he chooses to be like his sidekick was odd. And her whole storyline and her whole character was unnecessary for this film. All in all, her whole storyline could be cut. The Rock, you could have cut him way back. You didn't need him nearly as much in the film because it didn't serve the story. Just overall, I didn't like this film, and at this point, because by the time I watched 4, I was kind of rooting for this franchise. There are at least 3 okay, pretty good films that set up some pretty decent character by this point, and I was rooting for this franchise. And then the 5th one came along, and I went, well, nah, you messed it up. I was not that the 5th film was bad by any means, but it was a huge letdown to what I thought it was going to be. It was just like a confirmation of, no, these films are every bit as stupid and pointless as you originally thought they were going to be. It was just disappointing. It really was. So, I begrudgingly put on the 6th film, expecting to fall asleep halfway through it. To be completely honest with you. And oh my goodness, from the moment that film starts, it is an absolute cinematic masterpiece. Like, the 6th film was amazing. So it starts off in the opening title sequence by just recapping. It's this really fun montage of everything we've been through with these characters, and I realized how far we've come with some of these characters. And sure, of course we've come a long way in 5 movies, but still, just to recap all of that, it was really, really well done. The second thing that it did really, really well, the introduction of Shaw. Luke Evans' Shaw is incredible, and I realized the past 5 films have not had a good villain. Up to this point, there's been 5 films, and the only one that has a decent villain, I would say, would be the first one, and that's only because you don't really have a villain at all in that first one. All the other films are their villains are very, very generic and just there to drive the plot forward, but nothing special by any stretch of the imagination. Luke Shaw comes in there. Luke Shaw, that's not his name. Shaw comes in there and just blows it out of the water. He's this really, really good villain. He's plotting all this stuff. He always constantly kind of has this upper hand. He's got these really cool gadgets. This turns into like a Mission Impossible 4 style of a film. It's got this really fun action. They changed The Rock because he was weird and stupid in the 5th one, but they got rid of the accent, they trimmed his goatee up, and they gave him Gina Carano as a sidekick, which just makes way more sense than the little girl that they gave him in the 5th film. And was just really, really cool to see. This film knocked it out of the park. And then beyond that, it had so many character storylines get wrapped up in a satisfying way. So one of my favorite characters, or 2 of my favorite characters in these films up to this point were Han and Giselle. And I loved this Romeo and Juliet style relationship they have, because you know that at some point, she has to die in order to get him to Tokyo. And I thought that was this really beautiful setup. You know something's going to have to happen to get this story to progress the story to where it needs to be. And I thought they did that in a really good way, really satisfying way. You bring it all the way back to the barbecue at the house of the Toretto family. So satisfying. And you end the film with them as a family sitting around the table saying grace, and it's just all around an amazing film. There's something else. Oh, okay, yeah, I was gonna say there's something else I was wanting to say about this. The ending, the surprise ending with the plane chase. Now, here's the thing with surprise endings, and in case you don't know what a surprise ending is, it's when you have your big climactic battle, it looks like the good guys win, and then all of a sudden, oh no, there's one more little thing that has to be done. The bad guy escapes one last time, and you gotta take him down, and there's one more climactic battle that has to happen. This happens far too often in big-budget Hollywood movies, and I hate when this happens, because by this point, typically it happens in films that go on for far too long anyway, and my brain has already been signaled that this is the end, we're shutting the film down, you can prepare to leave the cinema now, and then, oh wait, no, you got another 30-minute action sequence here, and just hold on tight, thought you were going, psych, not happening. I hate it when films do this. And this film has a surprise ending just like that, but what was interesting to me is I felt like they actually made this work, because they made that climactic ending sequence with, they flipped the tank and everything, it's really cool, but for some reason it felt unsatisfying to me. I thought they were ending the film, and I was disliking it. I was like, they couldn't quite stick the landing on this again, man. And then they had this surprise ending. Shaw comes back, and it's like, oh no, I've got Mia, I've got your kid, all this, you better let me go. It was just like, oh yes, one final action sequence, and the airplane chase sequence, the whole thing was just amazing, it was brilliant, I loved every second of it. I think that the Fast and Furious 6 is honestly just a cinematic masterpiece, and at this point, it took 6 films, but at this point I went, okay, I am a Fast and the Furious fan. Up to this point, I was like, okay, they're, for the most part, fine movies. I understand why some people like them. They're just not for me. But at this point, I went, I am all in. So I excitedly popped in number 7, and I immediately went, oh no. I'm sorry, but Jason Statham's Shaw is just not, at least in this film, is not nearly as compelling as Luke Evans to me. He wasn't nearly as interesting. And then he's not even your main villain, really. You've got the other stuff, and then he just comes in like a little thorn in the side. And you had this whole weird character arc with Brian O'Connor, who he doesn't enjoy the family life. He wants to go back. He wants to dodge bullets. He wants to get back into the action. He's antsy to get back into the action. I just thought that it would have been a much more interesting character arc if you would have seen him really adopt that family aspect and the protective aspect of it. And so when he is forcibly thrown back into the action, he's hesitant to do so, and it puts the whole team in jeopardy because he's valuing his life more, and he's not doing nearly as dangerous of stunts or taking as many risks because he wants to go home to his family that he has. That's what I thought should have happened. But then then there was a scene that really turned this around for me. Turned the entire movie around for me, really. Again, double down on why I'm such a fan of this franchise. There's a scene where Dom takes Brian aside and he says to him, "Listen, you think it's courageous to go out there, to dodge bullets, to do all your action stunt, to put your life in danger? No, that's not courageous. You know what's courageous? It's being there for Mia and your son when they need you. It's being a father and being a darn good father, too. That's what's courageous." And I realized at this point, this is a franchise that has positive affirmation of family. And I'm not just talking about, the friends that you hold close to you and you're loyal to and you call your family. That's what the first, I'd say, about 5 films really nail down. But from 6 onward, it's about the idea of being a father, of having children, of settling down. And it's positively affirming that. And you realize for a majority of these characters, they want to settle down at some point. They want to have a family. That's the end goal here. And to have that as Brian's end, rather than sending him off in a tragic death or something like that, I thought was really beautiful. And I thought it made so much sense. And just having a huge franchise like this have a positive affirmation of family and specifically fatherhood, because a lot of fathers are watching and enjoying this franchise here. And I think that was just an amazing thing to have, and I absolutely loved it. To be honest with you, though, I knew Paul Walker died in the making of one of these films. I didn't realize it was 7. I didn't even realize it until they panned up to the sky and said for Paul, and at that point, I went, oh, that's why they did that with his character. Oh, that's why they were giving it this weird ending. Everything made more sense, and it brought closure to this film for me. It's not one of my favorites, but it has some really, really good moments in it, and I thought progressed the story along for the franchise well enough. Overall, a solid film. Again, not one of my favorites. I think there are some serious flaws with it, but to have that positive affirmation of family and to say it so clearly in this film, I thought was just amazing. So then we move on to number 8. So I had picked up the first 5 films at a thrift store, and I knew I was gonna want to make a video about talking about it because I was gonna want to tear these films apart at the start. Remember? So I went on eBay and I bought 6, 7, and 8. 6 and 7 came pretty quickly. 8 got lost in the mail for a little while, so I was waiting on 8. And while I was waiting, I checked out some trailers for Fate of the Furious and for the 9th film that's coming out at some point this year, hopefully, maybe in 2021. Anyway, I got scared. I mean, Dom turning against family. It looks to be undoing this really cool family message that I was so getting behind at this point. I was scared going into the 8th film. When it finally arrived, I was excited but nervous that it was just going to undo everything the previous 3 films had set up and had done. I also looked and I realized that the past 5 films, I think it would have been, from Tokyo Drift onward, had been directed by the same guy. Which I don't understand how you go from directing Tokyo Drift to Fast and Furious to Fast 5. Those are 3 tonally completely different films in every respect. But bravo. Bravo to him for building this into the franchise that it is today. But I also saw that at the end of 7, he stepped away. Then a new director comes in for 8, and I believe a completely different director comes in for 9 here as well. But anyway, through on 8. And like I said, I was nervous. I was nervous about this film. But oh my goodness. It took a while for actually me to get into it. Initially, I thought the opening was really pretty weak, all things considered. And introducing Charlize Theron's character was just, she was not really compelling as a villain, and so at this point I'm thinking like, wow, really the only good villain we've had out of this 9-film franchise is so far Shaw from the 6th film. And then you have Dom and he turns against his friends. And at this point, I'm just kind of like, alright, I'm along for the ride, but I'm not enjoying this. And then they showed why. The whole time I was watching Dom, you could tell it wasn't mind control. They had some dirt on him. But I'm watching this and I'm going, why? What could be so bad? What could they have on you that you would go and turn your back on your friends like this? Why? And then they revealed what that was. And oh my goodness. At that reveal, the whole film turned around for me. It made so much sense. Also, it validates the previous 5th film. Some of the storylines I thought were pointless. It validates those because the girl that I thought you could have completely cut out of that film, she has a really, really good arc throughout the 6, 7, and 8, but specifically here in 8. Everything, it just made so much sense. And then Charlize Theron's character as a villain just really doubled down. I honestly, I would have to say, I think she's the best villain. And what's so interesting about her as a villain is she attacks family on an ideological level, trying to destroy the idea of family, taking an evolutionary standpoint to poke holes in the idea of why we should have families today. And Dom says no. You can't destroy family on an ideological level, because if you destroy family, you destroy society. It's so interesting to have a villain like that to attack the family unit, because we've built the family unit up as being such a strong component and positive component in this franchise, and now to attack it, so good. But beyond that, gadgets she had and what she was trying to do, I thought it was really interesting. I thought 8 was actually a really, really, really solid film. There was a lot of really good stuff in 8. A lot of really, really good stuff, and I'm excited to see where they take 9. This franchise hasn't sold me on the fact that every film's going to be good. I go into each film so far, and I'm going to go into 9 skeptic but optimistic. It's not something that when I hear there's a Fast and Furious movie, I'm immediately like, oh, this is going to be a good movie. But at the very least, it has more character, more of these characters that you love. And I think that's really cool. And I think it's amazing that they continue to stick with this theme of family. They just doubled down on that with the 8th film. And the 8th film ends with another barbecue, but this time they have all their kids running around. Just again, enforcing the idea of the family unit. So good, so amazing, loved it. Mwah! So Fast and the Furious, I would now consider myself, I'd consider myself a fan of Fast and the Furious. But it turns out that's not all the Fast and the Furious movies there are out there. There's one more, it's called Hobbs and Shaw, and it's fine. It's pretty good. For some reason, it just feels small to me. I don't understand why, especially if you compare it to the first, 4 Fast and the Furious films, this would feel big. Hobbs and Shaw would. But comparatively to the last 3, it feels a little bit small, but I think it's supposed to as well, just being that it's not as many characters. I think it's interesting to dive more into specifically Shaw's family, having his sister involved and his mother. I mean, we've got to see some of them in the other films, but just to dive deeper into Shaw's family, I thought was really, really interesting. And to dive into Hobbs's family was interesting as well. And to have this conflicting family structure in each, and just to show the strengths and the weaknesses of both, I thought was really, really interesting. Overall, I'd say Hobbs and Shaw is pretty decent, a decent look into the more family of some of the side characters. But overall, it's fine. It's nothing special. If you were like me and have been just giving grief to the Fast and the Furious franchise, you know what? Heck, check them out. They're not all terrible. Go into them with an open mind. Yes, there's parts to be criticized, but there are also parts that are they're really, really solid. So, that is it for this video. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that jazz, ring the notification bell, and yeah, I guess that's it. That's my end card. See you later, guys. We're out. I love you, awesome movie nerds. Chicka chicka wow.